Hello, welcome to the Essence of Tea podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Jit, and I'm super excited for you to join me today about a different perspective of tea. So many times when we think about tea, we think about the health benefits of tea, we think about wellness. But sometimes we're so into the science and what are the different components of tea, caffeine levels, cardiovascular health. It's more of the science side of things, but we forget that holistic living is really holistic living. So today I want to talk more about the other side of the brain, the art and creative side of the brain. And so some of you might be very artistically talented. I know many of you are potters and ceramicists, so tea comes very naturally for you because you're making cups, you're making bowls, or whether you're making a matcha bowl or crafting a teapot. And some of you are amazing artists in different ways, in music, in drawing and painting. And so today I want to talk a little bit more about the creative side of tea. So, how can you bring out your creativity? And you can think of tea as a way of relaxing, right? Enabling you to relax and to be able to enable an environment for you to be creative. So that might be the first step, is the ritual and the art of making tea. And today, hopefully my guests will be popping on very shortly while I'm waiting for them. And so what our special guests will be talking about is how their own personal story, their own journey of tea and getting into tea, right? So in tea, you might be curious about tea. You might be really interested in, how it makes you feel. You might use it for meditation and so much more. But everyone has their own personal tea journey. And so I want to invite our guest, Ashana, today, who is going to be sharing her own personal tea journey and how she got into tea and how she uses it um, in conjunction with her creative spirit. So for me, you know me, I'm always teaching about the science and the health benefits and the wellness aspects. But what I'm really passionate about is holistic living. And so when you use both sides of your brain and use that as like an all encompassing way of living, of your quality of life, that is the most important thing. And it's individual for every single person out there. So, Ashana, welcome. Thank you so much for joining
Hi.
today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Ashana, we want to tell everyone a little bit about your own personal tea journey, how you got into tea, what tea means to you.
Yeah, so I was a barista for about 5 years here in Alaska. It's kind of funny though, because when I first learned about coffee, not a lot of people in Alaska were really knew about tea. So anyone who ordered it, I didn't even really know how to make it. Like I literally would put hot water in a cup and I would just dip a tea bag in for like maybe 10 seconds, take it out. And it wasn't until someone from the UK got coffee from me or got tea for me, and they're like, you're supposed to leave the tea bag in there for a couple minutes. And so that was like my first like understanding of what tea even really was. Fortunately, the very last coffee shop I worked at was very much coffee and tea, and they had really high end tea. This was down in Florida, and that's when I first fell in love with tea, when I got to try so many different kinds besides Lipton, getting to try, I think green teas are my favorite. Learning to steep them, just like when you cook something, you need to cook it correctly in order for it to taste, correctly. And so learning the importance of both like the heat, that you put on there can, if it's too hot, it can ruin your tea. And it's just really interesting how that works. But that's when I learned all the colors of the tea. Like we did extensive like classes learning all about tea. And so you'd have all the cups out and you could see all the colors. And I really enjoy sharing like the magic of tea with people, especially in Alaska, because again, sometimes they seem coffee heavy. So yeah, that's what got me into tea. And then yeah, recently trying to do the watercolors, which was something I'd never heard or thought of before. So I thought that was really interesting. And I don't know if you had any questions before I got into that, but
Oh yeah, so okay, so you are an artist,
Mhm.
obviously. Like if anyone looks at like your Facebook page and like you do all sorts of art. So tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about how you got into art and what art means
Mhm.
to you and what you do nowadays with art.
Okay. I've always been into art ever since I was a kid. I loved doodling and coloring, and I would always volunteer to make posters at school for fundraisers. That was always fun for me. And I've always tried to keep art in my life. I started getting into, I actually had gotten offered to get body painted, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I liked it. It was very like different and creative for me, and the artist was actually running behind, and they asked if I could help paint some things on this other person's legs just to help help the process along, like the time was ticking. And so I really enjoyed it. I'm like, hey, I could actually do this. And so I started doing it just with some friends, doing like really intense creative makeup. And then I had someone reach out and ask if I could face paint for their kid's birthday party, and I was like, I could probably do that. And so, I studied and learned designs just on YouTube and stuff. And then I really felt like face painting fell into my lap. Like it was a gift from above. Um, it's just something I never thought would be my life that turned into my whole life. Like my business is my baby. Like I love it so much. And now I do face painting, year round, definitely slower in the winter, but yeah, it's really cool that I could turn face painting into being a full-time job, a career really. And it also gives me time to, I mean, I still do other creative things. I love to play around with acrylic paint, which the first time I did acrylic paint was well after I had done face painting, and I was like, wow, this paint is so different. And so it is really interesting to see how watercolors and all that is so much different. But even now, my husband is getting into photography, and so I'm getting into videography and doing drone footage. And so there's so many different kinds of ways to be creative, and we definitely live in a creative household here.
Yeah, what's like really amazing is your husband. I've known him for I think since the beginning of my business. And so
Hmm.
he's always been so excited, such a ball of energy. It's always
Yeah.
been very encouraging of my business. And so it's kind of funny like years later that I see him and I see him growing in his creativity. And even
Hmm.
though he had some medical issues or whatever in his life, now he's like, I can drink tea again. Like he's just
Hmm.
so excited because
Yeah.
I don't actually know why he's so excited about my tea or just tea in general. But I mean, it's interesting the type of energy that a person can have for something and that mindset that can get you through so much more. So it's almost like the other way around, like this goal achievement. I can drink tea again,
Yeah.
with all these different things going through, and it comes back full circle. And it's like, oh, and now I'm a photographer, and
Hmm.
my wife does all these different paintings, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's not just a face painter; she's an
Hmm.
artist. Like,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
like all
thank
these
you.
things that I see, I'm like, and the fact that you are creating and you're creating and you're creating constantly, right? So like you could be a painter and I have lots of friends who are artists, so they'll make a lot of like paintings, right, for example, and then you're like, what am I going to do with all these paintings? I only have so much
Yeah.
wall space, right? So the next step is to share that, right? To share that
Hmm.
love, that creativity, that passion. Philip's got tons of photographies. Like, what am I going to
Hmm.
do with these photos? So you have to think of a way to share it with people, whether posting it out on social media, making someone's day. You took like the simple act of painting body parts, and then
Hmm.
you're spreading that joy into a whole family and their friends for a
Hmm.
celebration. And now you're not just monetizing it, but you can see this ripple effect in how it goes out. And I feel like in the tea world, it's the same thing too. It's not meant to be kept secret. It's
Hmm.
meant to be shared, to be explained for those people who want to join us and want to be just as excited as us. So I approached you a few weeks ago and I was like, hey, I can only draw stick people, right? I'm really good at drawing stick people, actually. Like, people think it's like a published cartoon, and I'm like, oh, thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the only way I draw stick people. Like, whole like comic strips of stick people, I can do that. But one thing that I wanted to do was to bring this artistic side. And I know about making pigments with tea, with honey. Like, I've done stuff like that for our tea company before and had like instructors actually teach me and collaborate with me in that and making pigments out of tea. So I had approached you a few weeks ago for our tea wellness retreat coming up at the end of March. And because you are so creative, and because you can also teach like the technical side of painting, because I don't really paint, I can just stick
Yeah.
people. and and to also, because you and your husband are really into like the art of food too, right? To
Mhm.
like experiment with these things and to be able to share it in this intimate setting of our tea wellness retreat. So do you want to explain a little bit about the experimenting process? I mean, not everything, right? This is just,
Mhm.
pretty short podcast and not all the details, but like the process that you went through for experimenting and like the kind of colors that you've come up with, that you've seen in the hues in the infusions of tea.
Yeah, I really liked all the different tea samples that you sent me, and so of course made every single one of them. Um, I had made this chart, and I'm making a new one, but wait, I'm getting too fast. Hold on. So I guess at first I wanted to focus on, of course I wanted to make sure I could get the most color I could out of the tea and know that it is not supposed to like be like taste good, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna have to put hot, on all of them and really, really make them as concentrated as I could. So I got these little 4-ounce jars and I just put like 2 tablespoons of each of the teas in there and then filled it up and then I let it sit for like 3 or 4 hours until it cooled and then I strained it, got the leaves out, and after I had what I think it was 11 jars, and I could sit them all next to each other. That's when I got excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to see like what what happens when I put it on paper, and it was really interesting because even some of them when you put it on the paper, it would go on, this one specifically, the Midnight Sun, it would go on like a really light, peachy kind of pink color. And then it dries. It's actually really pretty, like kind of gray color. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So being able to think about that when you're painting, like, okay, I know it's going to look pink for a moment, but just imagine it's a little bit gray later. um, and then the butterfly pea flower, I put this on really thick, but that's the blue one here. Ooh, there we go. Yep. And then this one is your hibiscus one, and that one was just really intense. I did that one really, really thick as well, and so I want to try doing like a thinner line. So I'm definitely still playing with it, and definitely have all these ideas for how I can implement them into different ways for people to enjoy it. I want to have some like pre-made, like I'll draw like the outline of Alaska, and someone can just fill it in if they don't feel confident in like doing their own scenery or something. So I'm trying to make sure everyone will be comfortable, everyone will have all the choices, that that they could to be happy and to be able to play and have fun and it be stress free and yeah.
Yeah, and so it's so fascinating about this session that we're going to have with the Tea Wellness Retreat coming up at
Mm-hmm.
the end of March. It's not only going to be in beautiful Alaska, under the beauty and the scenery at this private lodge that we're going to hold all of our sessions on. And yeah, it's going to be on matcha and harvesting tea leaves, but this art session is going to be so powerful because Ashana is going to be teaching all of the attendees how to make the pigments that she's discovered and tweaked in the first place. Because tea is a plant, and all plant materials have different natural pigments. Even certain soil and minerals and things like that, they have certain pigments. We've been using them for thousands of years, things from nature to make color. And that color and that expression of color, not only are you going to learn how to make the color, you're going to now express it on paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, canvas that you are going to now be able to share with other people, whether it's for other people or yourself, or just the experience to do it, to allow yourself to be vulnerable and pour yourself out onto something that you
Mm-hmm.
can't erase,
Yeah.
right? Because some of us, oh, but if it went, I can't do that. I can't do a painting because it's stuck on there. It's okay. That imperfection is part of who we are, that we can evolve and transform. And
Oh yeah.
that
And
is
like,
huge. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, mistakes in painting, a lot of the times, like, you learn, you like, when you're younger as an artist, like, I someone told me, if you make a mistake, like when you're painting or drawing, just turn it into part of your painting. And how many times it actually like enhanced the painting. It's like those mistakes just gave ideas for something new that, was totally off the table before, and you're like, wow, and it even made it better. But even back to what you were saying about using the pigments, there was something very magical about it. I think that's why I got so excited when I saw the colors. Just like, this is from Earth. Like, this is,
Yes.
it's not chemicals. It's not, anything like man-made, I guess. But yeah, it was just something very raw and beautiful about it that definitely like touched something inside my soul that made me excited about this, and definitely happy to share with people for sure.
And so while she's teaching the painting part, and it's not because I'm not confident in my painting. I'm fine, making mistakes. It's challenging in a way. It stretches me outside of my bounds. It's totally fine. I appreciate it. And then everyone will be just experiencing the same thing, right? Their own personal outpouring out onto something, and an outward expression of who they are on the inside. But I will also be sharing and making the teas that you can drink for the people who are part of our tea wellness retreat, sharing the cups of tea and of the ones that you'll be using for painting. And you'll be drinking the tea and learning about the powerful health benefits of it all. So again, bringing it back into the physical realm, back into the self of what you're
Mm-hmm.
drinking to fuel your energy, your creativity, your spirit, your soul that's inside. And so I think it just up levels it even more, like elevates the experience more. Is that, yes, we're going to learn how to make pigments with tea. You're going to now physically learn how to take something that's from nature, that's raw, put it out on paper, to make it come out of yourself. Maybe not perfect, but it's the experience of it. And then internally ingest the actual tea's benefits. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so holistic. And I think
Yeah.
extremely powerful.
It makes me think of like watering a plant, right? We're going to be having the tea like nourish us, and then we're going to be putting out creativity. Just a beautiful image for sure.
Yeah, and that's what tea's been like for like thousands of years. Like this beautiful plant helps clean our oxygen, right? Because it's a plant, and then we put it into ourselves to nourish ourselves to be able to pour out more. So it's just like that circular, that energy. So if for those of you who are very fascinated about this opportunity, you can text the word retreat to 206 339 4587, or you can go to sippingstreams.com and check it out. Ashana, how can people learn more about you? I know you're not in Fairbanks, Alaska. You're going to be coming up here for the wellness retreat. How can people find out more about you, the things that you're doing, opportunities to work with you? Where can they find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Ashana Flippo, ASHANA FLIPPO. You can definitely add me as a friend. Definitely love sharing our art. My husband tags me in every single picture that he posts almost every day, and they're really magical. You should add him as a friend too. You can learn so much about animals just from his amazing pictures, and definitely we get so many messages that, are the pictures brighten their day or help them through hard times. And We also have a lot of people reach out that are traveling to Alaska, and they're just like, where can we go? And we love, love, love like sharing cool places to visit. And we have so many people that are like, I'm coming up to Alaska in July. What can I do? And they're like, message us when you're here. Like if you're in Seward and you're like, what restaurant should I go to? Ask us. We will have answers. And so we definitely love sharing. And my business is Color Me Fun. The website Color Me Fun Entertainment, or you can find Color Me Fun on Facebook as well. And that is more my face painting. We also do we do a lot of like kids entertainment, so balloon twisting, henna, glitter tattoos, all the fun things to create memories at birthday parties and grand openings, employee picnics. We love to be a part of all those celebrations.
And the thing is, though, it's not just for kids, really. Like,
oh yeah,
it's for all ages who want to have fun, really.
Yeah.
And it brings community and people together. So I think that's what you do is so powerful. It creates a lasting impact.
I get a lot of adults that come in and they're like, am I too old? I'm like, not at all. And as soon as one adult sits down, the other ones are like, can I get one too? It's so cute. And they're like, I haven't had it since I was a kid. And like, I love bringing out the kid and the adults as well. And yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a fun job to get to make people happy and share color and art and all that.
Well, thank you, Ashana, so much for coming and joining us today on the Essence of Tea podcast. We really enjoyed your story about how you got into tea and the impact that art has made, not just for yourself and your family, but also for your community. And for those of you who want to meet Ashana in person, she'll be here in Fairbanks, Alaska for that tea wellness retreat, that intimate setting. We only have 11 spots left. So if you're interested in joining us for the tea wellness retreat, sign up today. You can go to sippingstreams.com. Thank you, everyone.